Patterson Foundation
strengthens people, organizations, and communities by focusing on issues that address mutual aspirations,
foster wide participation, and encourage learning and sharing.
Welcome to episode 3 of the new Civic Path series, a Beyond the Blood podcast of the Patterson Foundation. My name is Leah, and I'll be your host today as we dive into the experience of the new Civic Path book circles through the lens of one of our participants. Joining us today to give us a glimpse of what participation looks like is our guest, Butch Phelps, a Sarasota local and owner of the Muscle Repair Shop. Butch participated in one of our first circles with TPF facilitator Victoria Finley. Butch, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Leah. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
I'd love for you to tell our listeners about how you learned about the book circles, what made you feel encouraged to join one.
Yeah, my wife actually got me involved. She is actually doing a online one versus I did one in person, and which was kind of funny because she said, don't you want to go together? And I go, no, I don't want to go together. I want to be separated. So for me, I like being in person because it allows me to feel the room and the people in the room with me. And on top of that, it's like I just wanted to get in that first group to really sort of get a feel for what was happening. And it was amazing. I mean, the people there, they were pretty moderate, most of them. I mean, nobody was really hardcore either way, politically or religiously or anything like that. But it was very good conversations. It was safe, and people felt like they could actually talk and contribute. And the people that I met were just amazing, what they were doing in the community, because we really have no idea. You have all these people running around, and they're doing all these amazing things, and we have no idea what they're actually doing.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was such a robust group of helpers. I didn't realize that your wife was participating in a different circle. So you seemed pretty clear that you didn't want to do it together. What made you so certain that you wanted to separate?
Well, I mean, I knew how we both feel, and we're pretty close aligned. She's a little more probably to the left politically than I am. I'm a little more moderate, slightly left, but for me, it was like I already know how she felt. I just really wanted to be in a room with other people, and I wanted her to experience being in a room with other people. In her case, she's online, but in a virtual room with other people as well, so that we didn't play off of each other.
I'm glad to hear that you took that risk because I think a lot of people that might be signing up with their partner sort of want to rely on the safety of knowing that there's another known person in the room. But I really believe the value of these book circles and not getting to choose your own circle is meeting other people and having different schools of thought in the room, and it gives a little bit more space for the type of conversation that might be able to happen.
Exactly.
At the Patterson Foundation, we really believe in the value of connecting with others as a contributor towards our continued learning and evolving. So share with us what you feel you gained from participating in the new Civic Path book circle, and if there was anything in particular that really resonated with you about the experience.
I think for me, it was more sort of reigniting the need to start small. We all kind of get on the national level, and it's like we get outraged on the national level. Whether we're listening to Crisis News Network or Fear and Overwhelmed to the Extreme Network, we always get overwhelmed. And it's like when we understand that where we make the biggest difference is when we're in our communities. And so I sort of equate it to like a football team. Every person has a job. It's a different job. And if one person doesn't do their job, the whole play falls apart. When we're looking at a community, there are certain things that I want, and there's certain things that you want. And we've got to find a way that we can make each other happy, but understand that the team between the two of us is the most important part of that puzzle. And I think that what I got from that was coming back to that team thought process versus this is what I want. I didn't want to be like a kid and going, I want my gum kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like understanding that the team is more important than just me by myself.
That's such a valuable way to look at this, that reminder. Even if we want it to be all about us, it's never going to be. We live in a community full of people, so there has to be coexistence. We have to figure out how to talk to each other. We have to figure out how to disagree without being disagreeable. And, how do we make those next steps forward? And that each of our roles really does matter. So I really appreciate you giving me that visual.
Well, I mean, if you think about it in our communities, we have police officers, we have people who pick up the garbage, we have people who do our lawns, we have people who repair our air conditioners, we have doctors, we have lawyers. If any group leaves, what does it do to the community? Our garbage would be stacking up on our driveways.
It leaves a big gaping hole.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly.
So we do need everybody together, and we do need everybody's opinion, because everybody's coming from different places. And as they come from different places, they bring experiences. Now, we may not have experienced the same thing, but when you start to understand where they come from, now it starts to change the way you think about your decisions on, hopefully, that you want to do in the community.
Or at the very least gives you a little bit more of an empathetic approach at how you're
Right.
looking at something. So we can understand where someone else comes from. It doesn't have to change our mind, but it may allow us to have a little bit more space in what next steps look like, or how
Right.
we get to the aspiration that we all share and hope to get to. So everyone has, the option to read a book on their own and to do this just sort of a siloed experience at home. But what do you feel like you really get? Why do you feel like it was so important to do this as part of a circle with other people, to process the information that the book shared?
I think we get caught up in our daily lives. I mean, I'm running a business. My wife is running a business. We're sort of like solopreneurs for a while. We're doing marketing. We're doing sales. We're trying to do the books. We're trying to, and you just forget. And when I saw the opportunity and read the book, what I realized was that it reminded me that I need to be back a part of the community, that I am a part of a community. And for some reason, in my own selfish ways, I was pulling away from a community just focused on my life. The world's bigger than that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think too, in that like post-COVID era where we all had to do so much isolating, it's almost like we forgot how to bring it back to what we used to do. So signing up to involve yourself in something like a book circle really makes you kind of thrust yourself back into the real happenings of what's going on.
It does. It was like, for me, what's kind of funny was I have a YouTube channel, and I've got thousands of people who are on it, and I interact with people from all over the world. And I had a friend of mine talk me into doing it, and I thought, there's no way someone on a video is going to learn from what I'm doing. How could they do that? And I've been amazed almost on a daily basis. From a 15-minute video, somebody in England, somebody in New Zealand, somebody in Canada calls up and says, "Oh my God, you changed my life. I've had this for like 8 months, and now this." I'm like, seriously, from a 15-minute video? Man, that's like wild. So when I thought about that, it was like, all right, so I got that little community over here, but what about my community where I live? And so that brought me back into thinking about that more and more too.
I'm so glad you had that experience of re-entering your community through this book circle. Share with us a little bit about what you learned during the book circles. Were there any, solid nuggets of information or calls to action or ideas that sort of sprouted for you?
Some of the ideas that I had wasn't anything that was earth-shattering. It was I kind of knew it. It just kind of reminded me about that. But it was about thinking, having that can-do spirit. I think for so many people, we're living in a society where, as they said in the book, people are worried, people are angry, people are scared, they're frustrated. And I think that if we go back and we think about all the things in our lives that have worked really well, we start to see that, our lives aren't that bad. Again, you hear the major networks, and they'll scare you to death. They think that the earth is going to just explode tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is that when you look at your life, and I always think that we have a happiness deficiency in our society. And I think that the media, I think politicians, I think that a lot of leaders have led to that. And it's like when you look at how well we live every day. I mean, think about the cars we drive, the buildings we work in, like what we're sitting in right now is a fabulous building. Our homes that we live in, our spouses and the people that are in our lives. We have a really good life. And it's like, so the little problems that we're running into in our lives are things that we can fix. But we have to bring ourselves together and understand that we have to fix those things together. I cannot fix your problems. You cannot fix my problems. But if we work at it together, we can solve common problems that we have just in our communities alone. And then once you start to do that in the community, Now what happens is you start to build a momentum that the next community over may go, oh, wait a minute, what are they doing over there? That's pretty cool. And then that community leads to, and then all of a sudden it just keeps building. So going even back to my business, it's like I started with nobody, and a friend of mine said, you got to work on this lady, because if you work well for her, she'll tell a ton of people. Well, she wound up sending me like 35 customers over time. And then from those, they would start sending in more people. So, what's the one thing that you want to do when you see something happening to happen well is you can't wait to tell your friends. So if my community is booming, where do you think everybody wants to live? Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing when you look at that can-do spirit that we've really got to start looking at, hey, I can change this. I don't have to be hopeless. I can change this, but I need help to do that.
It's really sort of shifting that perspective to what's possible, which is a big question we ask ourselves at the Patterson Foundation all the time, is what's possible, instead of spending time in the constraints or the things that get in our way. What's possible, and what changes when we move forward with that question. I was just listening to Mo Gadot on the way over here. He was talking to Simon Sinek, and he was talking about happiness, and he was saying happiness is a choice. Hopelessness is a choice. You can choose whichever way you want. Now, it may not feel like it's a choice, but again, if you come back in retrospect and you look at your life as a whole, everything is not falling through the floor. You got disappointed. So his equation for happiness was happiness equals your perception of life versus your expectations of life. And when you put those in alignment, you become much happier. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. So after exchanging your thoughts with others in the group and vice versa, was there anything that you felt really affirmed about, something you already knew that just was affirmed for you, or were there any new thoughts that started to kind of... I think the affirmation was probably more of what I felt. When I look in the group that we had a gentleman who is a retired surgeon who created something called Rocket Phonics that actually teaches young kids how to read. And he was saying that in their programs, they take kids from elementary school to junior high school, and within 1 year, they can bring them up to grade level in reading, which is amazing. Yeah. Then there was a lady who had taken it upon herself. They had 15 volunteers who actually raises money, does fundraisers to get diapers and food for young children who are below the kindergarten level, and helping out young mothers with the children, which is phenomenal when you think about that. Mm-hmm. And then a third woman was actually on the board of 8 different fundraisers that they literally were helping young people as well as some older people cope with life and improve and keep them, giving them what they needed. It affirmed to me that while we don't see them every day because they're not out on the front page of the newspaper every single day, there are people working their butts off every single day to make our lives better. And the fact that they're helping these young people become better educated and actually have food and the things they need so they'll survive, number one, our future then is going to be in much better shape. These people get no credit. They get no news talk from anybody because we're too busy telling how somebody else got killed over on the corner. What we should be talking about is people just like that who's making a major difference in their life. I got to sit in a room with these people, which was just amazing to listen to their stories. Sounds like a room full of really awesome movers and shakers. Amazing. Yeah. We have so many people who really care so much in our community in the Suncoast region. We're so lucky. I think to bring it back to the new Civic Path, the whole point of this is that we're not really at a shortage of helpers, but we need to take the next steps, not just talk about what we can do, not just, tell people what are we going to do next to make, to take action together. Do you feel like there were any tools that you got equipped with after participating in this book circle that might help contribute to you making, little ripples of change moving forward? To be honest, I didn't really feel like I had tools that were like given to me to say, go A, B, C, D. Mm-hmm. I think that the class or the book club was more centered on, let's make you aware of what's happening. Let's make you aware of what the options are, and then leave it up to us as adults to take that next step. And it can be scary. For a lot of people, it can be scary to do that. And it's like, just do it. Just go and do it. You see something that needs to be done, go. We have storms here often,
And how many times do you have a storm that the only time you meet certain neighbors is when you have a storm?
When there are trees down in
And
their
the
yard.
trees down, the
Right.
power's down. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, that's who you are. And you start talking to them and say, well, these are really nice people. And then the power comes on, and you never see them again. They don't hardly wave at you when they go by, and you don't hardly wave at them either, okay? How silly is that? You're living 2 doors away from that person, And so the thing is that once you bring that together, now all of a sudden your neighborhoods become safer. I mean, in my neighborhood, we know most of the people around us now, and it's like if one of us is out of town, we think nothing of calling that neighbor and saying, there's a blue car in your driveway. Is it supposed to be there? And so you're talking about just building safety in your community as well as that cohesiveness. And then all of a sudden, everybody feels like that you have their back and they have yours.
Yeah, sort of rebuilding that idea
Yeah.
of tribal connection, taking care
tribal.
of each other.
We're very tribal people. I mean, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So was it like having a TPF facilitator there to help move conversation, keep robust conversation happening? Did it contribute to the success of your circle, do you think?
Yes, definitely. I mean, Victoria was amazing. A couple of times, a couple of the guys would start head down a little bit of a political path, and she knew right how to bring it back. And if things sort of started getting in a little bit of a lull, she knew right when they asked the right question to spur new thoughts and to keep people talking. And what she would do is if someone wasn't speaking up, she'd call them by name. Of course, everybody had a name tag,
Right.
and she'd call them by name to get a response from them.
I appreciate that you brought up that she was able to bring people back to the purpose of being in the
Yeah.
room, because there probably is some concern, am I going to walk in this circle and going to have to hear about somebody else's political beliefs or the way they feel about something, and I feel really differently. But what the intention of this book and these circles is not to talk about where you stand on a political spectrum or otherwise, but really to start to identify our shared aspirations, learn how to talk about them together, figure out how to take steps together, knowing that we're not going to agree with everybody anywhere we go, let alone in these circles, but that there might be a lot more that we do share in terms of our aspirations for our community than we don't. And this is a safe place to disclose those pieces of yourself so that you feel comfortable talking about hard things. And that's why the facilitator's in the room, to help that happen. So I'm glad that you had a successful experience in that way. For our listeners who might be on the fence or maybe are hearing about the circles just for the first time, what would you say to them to help encourage them to press go, say yes, sign up?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. It's a great question. Yes, yeah. So it's like the first fear my wife had, this fear was, what if somebody comes in and they're from the other side and they really start to get really nasty about it, want to be argumentative about it. I'm telling you, the facilitators squashed that really quickly. But to be honest with you, there was 10 people, I think, in the room. Not one person really pushed an agenda there at all. I mean, everybody came into the room. They came in with the idea that we want to work together as a cohesive unit to talk about some things, not issues particularly, but to talk about things, how to build that community, how to build that trust in the community. I never felt threatened by anybody in that room. I talked to some of the ladies. They never felt threatened by anybody in that room. I felt like that after the first meeting, we had 3 meetings, so after that first meeting, it was almost like we became instant friends on that first meeting with everybody in the room. And by the time we get to the second meeting, we almost didn't need the name tags because we knew who each other was. And so the idea is that don't be afraid to come in, speak up. Nobody's going to criticize you. No one's going to hit you with a paddle or anything like that. Nobody's going to be wrong.
Right.
Everybody's not right. Everybody's not wrong. There's not a right or wrong thing. You're just putting thoughts out. You're discussing thoughts in a safe manner. And the conversations were just amazing. And then after the second meeting and the third meeting, people were hanging out, talking to each other. It's like they were planning to go have a snack with someplace, So it's amazing how quickly in that 3-meeting set, people bonded together in that room. So I would say anyone, if you are on the fence, just do it. Just do it. I'm telling you, you won't regret it.
Yeah, it's a small, commitment. It's only 3 meetings, so it's not going to take a whole bunch of your time, but it sounds like in your experience that it was worth every second of commitment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we actually, the third meeting after it was over with, we were like, we're kind of going to miss each other.
Right. We need a
It's like-
coffee date
And
now.
I said to my friend Jan, I'm like, we only been here 3 times.
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
talk about big things together,
Yeah.
that usually makes people connect pretty
Yeah.
quickly. Well, Butch, thank you so much for joining me
Thank you
today.
for having me.
It's really been a pleasure to hear about your
Yes.
experience, and I appreciate knowing how you intend to keep this concept of a new civic path going
Yes.
forward and active within you and within the things that you practice. Listeners, use the QR code on your screen to sign up for a new Civic Path book circle. And as always, to stay tuned or learn more, please visit thepattersonfoundation.org.